time to talk all things Spotify. So here to bring us more on this story and what's unfortunately driving some of the negative price activity today is Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent for the network. So Kevin, I thought we'd see a rally, follow the Taylor Swift money. I mean, her album was released at midnight, and where's the nice pop for Spotify? Because I have to say that in terms of like music consumption, it is truly amazing the way that she can release an album and you can instantly receive it on Spotify. I mean, that is like technology. I know that's not new, but it always kind of blows my mind. But walk us through what we're seeing today, and I'm sure there isn't exactly a Swift effect linking the negativity, but we do have earnings next week.
Yeah, definitely. And we are seeing a move to the downside, down over 5% in this session. And I actually just looked it up on Spotify myself. And Taylor Swift has over 90 million monthly listeners, which is remarkable to say the least. But we did have the album dropping here. The name of that album here is, let me get it because I'm not too much of a Swiftie here. There you go. You must have it already downloaded. But we are actually expecting to see a significant amount of sales when it comes to the new album here. And it's kind of a remake from an album that she dropped previously. And the market is really anticipating to see some pretty sharp moves to the upside here when it comes to the amount of sales. Now, last year in 2023, Taylor actually made over $100 million for Spotify because of the streams for her albums and all of her songs here. So it's a very interesting note. I did see that trending yesterday on X, along with what was actually going from the geopolitical news here. Now, one thing I actually did want to note before we get to the earnings announcement numbers here, the New York Times is reporting, I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but the New York Times is reporting that there's potentially a song on there where she is actually depicting Kim Kardashian as a bully. And I found that to be very interesting. This seems like this is the season for diss tracks, to say the least, from Drake to Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Maybe we add Taylor Swift to that list here, but that should be actually a tailwind when you're looking at the overall album for Spotify here. Now, one thing to kind of note and transition into Spotify, they have adjusted the terms for a lot of the artists and the contributors for the platform, giving them a little bit more profitability, if you will, for those artists. Now, that'll immediately impact them in the near term when it comes to their margins, but for the long term, adding to their catalog, adding to their content has been a proven strategy for them to bring in new customers, not only for their free tiers, but also for their monetized tiers as well. So that could also be a tailwind. One thing to also kind of note here, the historical performance for their earnings has not been great on the adjusted earnings per share estimates. They've only exceeded the estimates one time in the last 4 quarters, but they have been a lot of optimism around this name because of the restructuring packages, as well as the optimism with regards to trying to expand their margins here. So market is actually looking for revenue to come in at $3.99 billion. That's around a 20% increase on a year-over-year basis. And the adjusted earnings per share estimate right now is 66 cents, which would be a 153% increase on a year-over-year basis. But it is very expensive, trading at a 64 forward times earnings or forward time multiple right now. So we are seeing a little bit of a pullback. Not surprising, we're seeing a re-rating for a lot of these stocks that have very lofty fundamentals as far as their projections moving forward for the price compared to what they are expected to earn in the next 12 months.
Kevin, we had you pegged as a Swiftie, so we're a little disappointed you weren't up. I guess it wasn't even too late in Mountain Time, so you could have easily gotten this whole listening in before the show. But jokes aside, do you contribute the weakness today more as momentum as a factor, being kind of the leader to the downside, less so than a buy the rumor, sell the news with this event in terms of this new Taylor Swift album that dropped?
I think it's going to be all three. I mean, we have some headwinds from the broader equity market that is probably pushing down this stock. And then you're also seeing a scenario where we could have a buy the rumor, sell the news type of an event. And then the last thing I will say as we add the chart up, it is contesting a pretty significant gap from its previous earnings announcement. So that sometimes creates a little bit of a magnet or a move to the downside here as the market tries to speculate how they're going to perform here in the near term. But the fundamentals, for the most part, when you're looking at the growth numbers, they've been pretty well, to say the least here. But, Alex, it's kind of, you have to ask yourself, do you think that Spotify is worth a 64 multiple for every $64 that you put in for the stock? You're really getting $1 back worth in earnings. That seems pretty lofty to me. So I think just the broader market just re-rating a lot of these stocks that have run maybe too far, too fast I think is something that is a little bit healthy, and they might be able to reverse this trend if they have a good earnings announcement on Tuesday.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct, as we could see things, quickly change as often as we've seen them sort of roll over here. But I thought you made the greatest point of all. It's diss track season. That's what I wish we could talk more off air about, as I think I'm team all things Taylor versus Kim, and I think I'm also team Kendrick as far as that whole fiasco goes. I know, that was a hot take, cool. I know. Shoot, and we're also maybe feuding about the Bulls versus Lakers, as I am not a Bulls fan here in Chicago. But we will not get too much into that, Kevin. I think we should talk about this off air, but we'll leave it there. Great insight on Spotify as well as all things diss track season right now.